Hey guys, I don't know if you were jamming with me, but I was jamming. Guys, welcome to this month's edition of Level Up. So every single month, Keap gets to invite a special guest to discuss a different segment of Keap's lifecycle automation framework. And today, we're going to be specifically talking about the conversion section, how to convert prospects into paying customers by limiting the number of choices you offer. You know, there are a lot of tools out there, and while Keap is the industry leader, a tool is a tool. You know, a gym membership does not make you fit, right? Even knowing how to use the equipment does not make you fit. It's what you do, how often you do it to get the results that you want. So that's why we love having this Level Up series. We get to bring in a bunch of experts from a variety of topics to help you really think about the strategy behind how to use the tool to get the results that you want to help your business grow, right? A couple little housekeeping items, guys. First of all, yes, we are recording. And if you are unfamiliar with this lifecycle automation framework, because there are a lot of pieces of it, today we're just discussing conversion. But if you want to read up on the entire process, you can go into the reception area of this app. So you'll see like there's a home and a stage, like a reception and stage. So go in the reception area to see the whole thing. Also, if you know, you guys, chat's where it at. So please have fun in the chat. We love getting the feedback. We want to see your oohs, your ahs, your light bulb moments. And of course, go ahead and type in your questions as you think of them, depending on how relevant it is to what our guest and I are discussing at the moment. I may or may not interrupt them and be like, ooh, what about this? Or we'll save it because we will absolutely be having a Q&A session later. So please have fun with us in the chat because we have a lot of fun with this. Okay, so we have a very, very, very special presentation for you today. So team, let's bring up our guest. This is so special. Okay, so everyone, I'm so excited that I get to introduce you to Dallas McLaughlin. Say hi.
Hey, how are you?
Okay, so I cannot express how lucky I am to get to host these sessions because while I am a Keap certified partner and I get to hang out with the Keap family all the time, I think it's really interesting that they're using this Level Up series as a reason to pull in other experts, not just the people in our little family, but also people from all over the world. We've had people talking about Canva from Australia. We're going to talk about a lot of psychology and streamlining with you today that really improves conversion. So guys, this is not technical. We're not going to be talking about where to click. We're going to be talking about how to streamline. So Dallas, just give us like the 1 minute overview of how awesome you are.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I can do that in a minute, but I'll do my best. So yeah, I spent about the last, I would say 14, 15 years working in full service advertising agencies, typically on the lead acquisition side of things. So whether that's performance marketing on the paid side, so programmatic display, paid search, paid social, all that fun stuff, or on the organic side through content marketing, email marketing, search engine optimization, all of those. Kind of had a hand in it all across all industries, from the tiniest one-person shops all the way up to large clients, all the big ones that you can name when you turn on the TV. Now, for the last couple of years, I've kind of taken my show on the road, become a one-man shop, offering direct to expert business consulting, again, on the paid media side and the lead acquisition side on the organic stuff too. So having a lot of fun doing what I do.
That's so cool. And how this kind of ties in, everybody, is that, and I did get the chance to chit chat with Dallas separate from this. So I got to get to know him a little bit. And he, like a lot of us, is a serial entrepreneur. And I think one thing that he's really latched on to that we're going to be really diving into today is that there's just a lot of noise out there. I mean, specifically, right, Dallas, you're in media. So there's a lot going on, right? So we're going to talk about how to really clear that up and get into people's heads with psychology and easy decision-making, because conversions increase when decision-making is easy. Am I right?
That is right. We have to make it easy for our customers to choose us. That's it.
I love that. Or I think one of my favorite quotes is, people pay for less information, not more. Yes, right? Because if I wanted to know something, I'd probably Google it, but that is way too much information, right? All right. So we want to get to know you guys a little bit in the audience and kind of get a feel for where you're at. So in the chat area, there's actually a couple tabs. So there is a poll. Go ahead and click on the poll in the chat section at the top. We want to know, how many products does your company offer? Because that's going to play a big role in how you're going to be absorbing the information from Dallas today. Very cool. All right. Okay. So while those results are coming in, and we'll definitely share that in a minute, let's just jump right in. So I promise, guys, you're going to love this one because we're going to talk conceptually, but also with real actionable items. So let's start with the kind of the overview. So just let's talk about how can the number of choices one offers increase client conversions. Let's dig right in.
Yeah. So when I think about this one, kind of the first thing I think about is just where we're at in the year 2023, right? Like all of us, including our buyers, our customers, our prospects, we have so many needs and challenges and stuff that needs to be solved for, and use cases for niche products and services and anything you can think of, more now than at any other point in history. If you ask me, there's probably some numbers behind that somewhere. So from my point of view, businesses have kind of taken this approach of, offering something for everyone. They're looking at all of these customers and prospects and saying, hey, they've got that need. Let's go do that. Let's make all these products. Let's add all these SKUs, all these the variations to the products, the service offerings, just more stuff. They're kind of expecting their clients to vote with their dollars and steer the business on their behalf. But what this has kind of created, in my opinion, is what I call decision shock. Other people call it decision fatigue. It's kind of this point where, on a daily basis, we're all making so many decisions already that we can't possibly make any more impactful decisions. So in a lot of cases, we're just not making those decisions anymore. We're overlooking certain things. We're taking mental shortcuts. We're just doing other stuff. We can't make more decisions. We can't spend more time thinking about more things on a daily basis. So kind of where I'm seeing businesses then be successful with this idea is they're focusing in on exactly who they are and what they do and what they offer. And they're being the best in class or best in their industry, best in their vertical at that thing. They're becoming kind of the kings and the queens of their categories, and completely dominating that. And they're saying, hey, if you want those other guys that kind of do this and you want kind of average results, go shop with them. But if you want the best in class that there is that your dollars can buy, come shop with us. And that's kind of the messaging that I think a lot of customers and clients are looking for. They're looking for the person who can solve that explicit need in the best possible way for them, and not all of these like best of, all of the above, jack of all trades kind of people.
Well, just so you get a feel of our audience, it's looking like 25% on either side. So 25% have one product, 25% have 5 or more, and then 50% in the middle have 2 to 4. So that might inform you a little bit of our audience a little bit. Thank you so much for sharing, you guys, and keep commenting. We want to see that coming in. So I think one thing that comes to mind when you say the word like shock or fatigue, the thing that strikes me, because I consult, I'm a business owner too, and like I get like choked up and like a little bit, because it makes me think about like how much time that takes and how much effort that takes to put so much out there. So what you're talking about, like the consumer perspective, but even for us as like the attendees and myself, I'm thinking about like how tiresome that might feel to do all the effort for all the things and then wait a long time for results to kind of trickle in, right?
Right. Yeah. I think so. Maybe where some of this conversation can be taken kind of with bad advice is I'm not saying do less. Doing less is not the advice. Doing more of the stuff that works is the advice, and we'll talk through a lot more of that. And it feels better because you see those results sooner. You build a momentum. Your work is more focused. You get better at your craft. People recognize that you're getting better at solving the specific need. So yeah, you're not going to be doing less work at the end of this webinar. You're just going to be hopefully consolidating where that work is going.
Yeah, I think people tend to be more successful. And again, I love that you're speaking from the consumer standpoint. But again, for us as the people watching and the business owners and the marketing managers, I think it's going to feel like almost relieving to be like, let's just focus on the stuff that works. Like that quote like stuck with me. I was like, I put it in the chat actually. It's like, just do more of what works. Oh, that feels so good. So let's move on a little bit. So we talked about what were, kind of like the overview, but let's talk about some of the hesitations, because I know some of us are kind of thinking like, well, what if? So let's just blast away those misconceptions. So you can see here on the screen, it says, what is a common misconception related to the paradox of choice that you want to dispel? Let's make it all go away.
Yeah. So I think as we dive into kind of the psychology of it, so it is true that prospects, so people that haven't yet purchased, are more attracted to and drawn to businesses that have a wider variety of service offerings. And this has been tested time and time again. A simple study that's done over and over again is, people walking into a grocery store, more people will walk up to the display table with more products on it. That's a fact. And that a lot of the thinking of that is that a prospect is going to say, hey, I'm such a unique individual that the table with more offerings, more services, more selection is going to naturally be more likely to have something that maps to my needs because I'm so unique. Now, the misconception of this is then businesses hear that and they're like, well, clearly if we offer more people are going to come to our websites, walk into our stores, whatever. So again, they go back to this routine of adding more and more stuff to get more people to walk in the door. But actually, as you continue that research, all of those studies then follow that person from that initial attraction all the way through to the point of conversion. And what they actually find when they do these studies is that these people who were initially attracted to these wider set of offerings, these more variety, all of this stuff, actually have significantly lower conversion rates. Because what ends up happening is they say, okay, of this proverbial table of offerings, the perfect choice exists somewhere. So they begin looking for the perfect choice. They try to maximize their decision-making process. They try to make sure that the thing that they find is the absolute answer, which introduces a bunch of anxiety, a bunch of fatigue, just a bunch of stress into the process, which actually causes them to leave. Where on the other hand, when we look at the table of people that were attracted to the smaller selection of options, their conversion rates are significantly higher. They spend more. They're more loyal to the brand they buy with because they feel like it's a better shopping experience. It was easier to find the thing that they wanted because there was less confusion in what might be the best option for them.
Right. I wonder, do you think it has anything to do with the fact that like once you're actually honed in on a product, it's more like, I feel like this is for me, like from a psychology standpoint from the consumer?
Yeah, I think there's less buyer's remorse in there of like, did I make the right decision? There was a lot of options on that table. I picked this one. And if anything goes wrong with that, then they're thinking like, I made the wrong choice. It's my fault. I was stupid. Versus like, hey, there was 3 options. I picked one and this is exactly what I needed to do.
Right. I just absolutely love this because a lot of people talk about marketing and sales kind of like they're in silos. And what you're saying is the clearer, more focused your marketing is, the better your sales and your conversions can be. The chat right now is like, yes, conversions, even though we're kind of talking about the psychology from over here, it's going to increase what happens over here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, like I said, we know that our prospects and customers want a bunch of options. That's great. They want that. But what that ends up resulting in is more vanity metrics, like your more impressions, more website traffic, maybe more opt-ins, more downloads and things like that. But at the end of the day, we want customers. We want dollars going into that cash register that we can then continue to use to grow our business further and further and further. Website impressions, website traffic, that doesn't grow your business at the end of the day. You need conversions. You need transactions.
Everyone, that was a mic drop. Okay. Write that down. More traffic does not necessarily mean more conversions. Okay. That is definitely worth measuring. And so speaking of measuring, we've glossed over like why it's important and then kind of cleared the misconceptions. So we're all being sure that we're paying attention and we're really focused in on this. Let's get to the meat. So we want to make sure this presentation, even though this is a fun conversation, I'm really enjoying this. This is a fun conversation, but we want to make sure it's as actionable as humanly possible. So let's talk about some things that we can actually do right now. Like literally, I want the people watching this to write it down and be like, I'm going to hang up from this call and I am going to go.
Yeah. So when I look at this here, so again, what are the three biggest takeaways for me? Again, when I work with these companies, a lot of what I see that as new businesses are created, they're typically created by somebody who came out of what is now a competitor. So you're in one business, you're working as an employee, and you go, hey, I can probably do this a little bit better. And you walk out the door, you hang your sign on the shop next door, and now you're a new business. And that's great. That's like the natural path of entrepreneurship, right? Like we all develop our craft and then we want to go do it for ourselves and keep all of the money for ourselves. But what ends up happening with that approach is a lot of these businesses just are the exact same business that they just walked out of. It just might be a little bit faster, maybe cheaper, maybe a few additional features in there. But there's really nothing that truly differentiates the business from anybody else who's doing a similar type of service. So part of my advice when people are starting businesses, they're trying to maybe carve a new path within their business, is do a real difficult and honest assessment of who you are, who your team members are, what the market looks like, and figure out, where are you strong? Like, where are you weak? And going through this process, you can start to figure out, well, we're really, really good at this thing. Maybe you're a full service advertising agency that offers everything under the sun, but maybe your web department is the thing that is just crushing it and everything else is dragging it down. Maybe you are, just some product business and you've got one product category, t-shirts, it's killing it. You have to figure out, what do you do really well? What are your customers asking you to do more of and wanting to pay you more to go do that thing, and do that. Focus in on that. Focus your attention and your resources on that. You may drop off some additional revenue that's kind of on the peripheral of all that other stuff. But by focusing on what you do and actually being really good at it, then you can attack your competitors. You can look at your competitors and say, hey, they can't say what we can say because they're not that good, or they're doing too much other stuff. And you can attack the weak spots of your competitor, steal their clients, put them in your business, and go from there. Focus is your messaging, just narrowing in on what you can be the best at is the best advice I have.
That's like, is that the kings and queens thing you were talking about earlier? I loved that. That's like saying we own this and we're the best at this, right?
Yeah, the value is at being at the very top of the game. Like everything in the middle, like the middle of the bell curve, where everybody's kind of fighting and thrashing over the same thing. It's just too much warfare is happening in there for too few dollars. And you don't want to be the cheapest, because then you're the cheapest and you have to keep being the cheapest. You don't want to be second cheapest. So the real win is to be the best. That's where the value lies. And it's hard. And that's why you should focus on being the best at one thing. If you try to do 6 things, you're never going to be the best.
Well, what really caught my ear from what you were saying is, yeah, sure, do an honest assessment of what you're good at. But you specifically said you were like, your team. What do you enjoy doing? The ambiance, like the feel of your shop. Like there's a lot of things you mentioned that are not just the product itself, but it's like your core values, the way that you operate your business. That's all part of the assessment. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we'll talk about audience here in just a minute, but you have to like the work that you're doing. You have to like the people you're doing it for. Like you can't just do an assessment on what you're good at, because potentially you're good at something no one cares about. So that's not good. These things all do have to be considered. But again, you gotta do all the math, run the algorithm, figure out, what am I great at? What are people asking me to do? What are people willing to pay for? What's the market upside? And just put all of that into one recipe, focus all of your attention like a laser on that, and go after it.
Oh, I love that so much too, because it gives us permission, us as the business owners and the Keap users and the marketing managers, it gives us permission to like step up to the plate and say, I'm an expert in this thing. And then you can speak more confidently about it. It's gonna come out in your copywriting and the way that your business flows. You can increase your rates, right? Because you're like, I'm owning this. I'm the best at this thing, so I can charge more for it.
Right.
Cool. So let's move on to the next one. You said deeply understand your audience. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So again, this all kind of runs into the same path here. So not only do I love just finding the service, product, offering, whatever it happens to be that you're the best at, you have to understand who's going to pay you for that. What I typically recommend, which is sometimes a contrarian thought, is again, develop the craft first, develop the product first, figure out the service offering first. Because if you're exceptional at this thing, there's always going to be a market. A lot of people will try to find a market that has a need and then try to like weasel their way in there, which sometimes works. But I believe in being the best at what you can do and then finding the audience. But once you find that audience, it's more than just finding them. You have to figure out who they are. What are their behaviors? What are their interests? Where do they spend their time? When they're not shopping for your product or service, what are they doing? What kind of vernacular or lingo are they using? What memes are they sharing? Like you have to truly get involved in who they are and what they do. And that goes back to what I was saying, where you have to like your customer. If you don't like your customer, if you don't like where they're spending their time, if you're not interested in who they are, you're not ever going to be able to connect with them. You're not ever going to be able to speak their language or, write copy that works for them, produce resources for them. You have to figure out who they are. And you can tell the businesses that don't know who their audience are. All of their messaging is just super well-rounded. It's just kind of this, all the edges are sanded off. It really resonates with no one, partly because they're afraid of, excluding potential customers. But I think of this in terms of like concentric circles. Like you have your core audience at the very middle, and it may be very, very small. And if you focus all of your messaging, all of your creative, your website, everything on that, you're still going to attract those audiences that are on the circles that are further and further out. You can move those people to the middle because they want to be like the people in the middle. You want to develop that tribe mentality, that in crowd, and you want to try to pull people into it versus trying to go into all of their tribes, which is never going to work. So you have to know your audience, what they're looking for, how they talk, and you have to speak directly to them.
That felt very reminiscent of on the show. Actually, we once had a conversation with Lindsay talking about avatar and audience. And one of the things that she said is, you as the expert, you're going to speak differently because you're good at the thing. And the people that you're selling to are not good at the thing, and they're not going to use the same terms as you. So I think that's a really great thing to call out, because we're talking about eliminating confusion, which thereby increases your conversion. So we have to be really careful not to use our like technical, nerdy expert language. We have to meet them where they're at, right?
Right. And like what I always say is, like, we're all like looking at these audience sizes. We're doing this audience analysis and trying to be like, this audience is 300,000 people or whatever. Most of our businesses, we're not Walmart or Walgreens. We need like 10 people. We need like 50 people to be a successful business. Like, we don't need these gigantic audience cohorts of all of these different people to be successful, because even less than 0.01% of those people are even going to choose you anyway. So focus in on the smallest event or I just read the ticker there, smallest group of people that will purchase your business, to understand your business, and build everything around them.
Oh, the perfect people. I love that. And then the third thing you mentioned is, do what creates the most value for the buyer. Can you be more specific?
Yeah, definitely. So for this one, I have a lot of pricing conversations with my clients. They typically will come from an area of either hourly rate, which a lot of people on this webinar are probably charging by the hour. Typically what you do in that case is you just say, hey, here's how long this thing's going to take me, multiply it by your hourly rate, boom, here's your price. But then for me, that's no way to scale a business, because then you're exchanging hours for dollars, and there's a finite number of hours in the day. So for me, I'm not interested. And then there's also, if you're like the goods manufacturer, if you sell a product, there's costs in manufacturing and packing and shipping. And then you stick a little margin on top there for yourself of 10, 20, 30%, whatever it happens to be. But then the game just becomes, well, how do we, shrink our costs to increase our margins? And the whole game becomes about efficiency in that manner, which again, I'm not very interested in. So what I talk about is value creation. What I want to do is look at the work I'm about to do and say, hey, this is going to create X amount of dollars of value for your business, and I'm going to base my pricing off that. Quick example, since we're running out of time here.
I love that.
If the work I'm doing is going to generate $1,000 of incremental revenue, the most I can charge you for that work is $1,000. Otherwise, why would you pay me for it? But if the work that I'm going to do for you is going to create $10,000 of value for you, I can charge $5,000 for that work, and you're still going to come out ahead. You're going to pay 5 times more for the work, but you're going to make 10 times more at the end of the month, or however long it happens to be. That's the business I want to be in. Create as much value as I can and capture as much of that value as I reasonably can.
Wow. Okay. Ooh, that like took my breath away. Value-based pricing. So while we're catching our breath on next, I want everyone to really, really like think about that for days, please. Let's talk about how we can actually accomplish these things, because you gave us some really, really good ideas. We're all going to sit down and we're going to like really dig our brains into those 3 awesome ideas. Thank you so much. What are some tools that you recommend to help our listeners narrow down their product offerings?
Yeah, so I think this one's very subjective. So I see 2 types of businesses in my work. I see businesses that have a super clear focus, a super clear point of view of the direction that they're going to go, the products that they're going to offer, services they're going to offer. And then a lot of our work is just helping them go faster, reducing the friction, the sand in the gears, producing SOPs, scaling faster. Then I see businesses that have no clear focus, no clear priorities. They're trying to figure it out every day, not really sure which direction to go in. And then when I look at these 2 buckets of businesses, the biggest difference I can tell in those 2, and it's not just size, the headcount, it's not revenue, any of that stuff. It's really having access to the proper metrics in a cohesive place that everybody on the team can look at, agree to, and rally around, and look at how they're moving in a weekly, monthly, annual basis. So any kind of data analytics tool could be as simple as Google Analytics with the proper tracking. It could be something like a Keap. It could be something like a HubSpot or a Salesforce. But you have to have something that centralizes all of this information. You have to have something that your team can get into, and you're all looking at a single source of truth. There's too many businesses that I've been with that everybody's got their own spreadsheets. They're all doing their own funny math to get the numbers that support their cases to do things. You all need to be able to look at, how many people are coming to our website? How long are they spending on the website? What are they reading? What are they downloading? What social posts are they engaging with? And if you can all look at this together, it's pretty simple to see what's working and what's not working. And again, focus your attention on what's working and stop doing the stuff that nobody cares about, because nobody cares about it.
I love that so much. What's really cool is, remember I mentioned earlier, I said we're talking a lot about marketing and we're talking about sales, and they're not living in silos. And so some of the tools that he's talking about are, very in the lead generation area and tracking the data around that. But then, of course, once you capture them and you own that email asset, there's going to be different kinds of reporting, but it doesn't end there. They're not 2 different types of reporting that shouldn't look at each other. I think what you're saying is we need to look at the big picture of the costs and behavior over here versus the revenue and behavior over here, and also our costs and our time, and put that all together to say what's working and what's not, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good point. So it's easy to look, especially like a multi-department type business. It's easy to look and say, wow, this department's making us so much gross revenue on any month or year. But you have to also look at, but what's it costing to generate that revenue? Like time, effort, headcount, salaries. What is it taking to drive that revenue and sustain that revenue? There may be smaller departments in terms of revenue that haven't been given the love and attention that they actually need, that your customers want more of, because you think they're so small. But when you look at, well, what's it cost to actually maintain and grow that side of the business, there may be a huge upside there. So you do have to look at both what's the input and what's the output and measure those things together.
Okay. We're just marrying all sorts of worlds today. Really like to hear that. So when it comes to the the lead generation side over here, are you a big fan of like using UTMs and then comparing where all of your leads are coming from? Does that affect everything post capture as well?
Yeah, I'm extremely obsessive about any attribution modeling type stuff.
Yeah.
At the same time as I say that, I also understand the customer journey is way more varied and nuanced and broken in terms of devices and screens and locations than we could ever try to effectively measure. But at least directionally, it's going to tell you so much more about what's working, what's not working. Again, where to focus your attention. I keep saying that because you could be putting a ton of time into all this stuff, and then you look at the reporting and you're like, wow, we just basically threw all that into the Grand Canyon and nobody cared. But sometimes that's the way it is.
No, I love that so much because I think a lot of people, especially like business owners that hire out their marketing, they'll just kind of not pay attention and they'll just say, okay, I got X amount of leads. But I think it's really, really advantageous to pay attention to where those leads are coming from. And you keep dropping the word focus. And that's literally what this entire presentation is about today, right, guys? Like we're focusing on the things that are working. It doesn't matter if it's the attribution and the lead generation over here or what products are selling. What's the big picture of what works and is the most profitable for conversions? I love that so much.
Definitely.
Oh, absolutely. So obviously this wonderful show, and we're so happy to have you, is hosted by Keap. So let's talk about how does Keap help with this, because Keap is a CRM, and as I keep describing, there's like the lead generation side of things, and then there's the once they capture, we own that email asset. So let's talk a little bit how Keap helps for the capture and moving forward to help us specifically what you're talking about, focus.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of goes back to what I was saying just a bit ago. Keap is an excellent, like, centralized resource of the company's data. It's going to be the aggregate that everybody in your organization with very little, onboarding can get into and say, oh, okay, I can see, we have this many prospects at these stages of the sales funnel. Mm-hmm. At each stage of the sales funnel, I can see, what kind of the conversion rate is between the two of those things. I can see which clients and customers are resulting in the most revenue and what services they're paying us that's attributed to that revenue. So for me, Keap is awesome because it allows me to just, again, have a full look at the business. You can zoom all the way out and just see how's the whole business performing, or you can dive all the way in and see on the ground level what's happening, what do we need to do more of, what customers are actually paying us for, how many have just been sitting in our CRM database consuming time, energy, and resources trying to build touch points with them. Mm-hmm. That aren't ever going to buy from us, and how do we focus on the ones that are very near and dear to us and about to convert, and how do we retain the ones that have already converted? Because again, I'm a revenue guy. I like leads and inbound stuff. It's all great, but I want to know the ones that are going to pay me and put dollars in my cash register. And Keap is awesome at helping evaluate, kind of where those leads are and how I convert them from lead to customer.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of customer journey, you can take the ones that are actually converting and turn those in. That's the audience you should be studying that you talked about in the beginning. This is a cyclical adventure where you're just honing in and finding the right thing at the right time. But I think what I really love about what you're talking about specifically in terms of Keap is that at the end of the day, this is a numbers game, right? Mm-hmm. And once we capture them, Keap is the ability, it's not just a CRM with names and emails and fields and tags. It has a plethora of reporting, so we can track the behavior. We can see how many days people are in our pipelines in each section. If there's a bottleneck in this pipeline, like that is something to definitely fix in terms of the focus that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, and I like what you said too. About how, it's a numbers game. Once you get one, it's cyclical. But what that made me think about is we spend so much time thinking about the 99% of our sales funnels and prospects that don't convert. It's like, but what you should do is look at the 1% that did.
I feel a little called out right now.
Well, you're the one that said it though. You were like, look at the conversions. That's what I say. Like, look at the conversions. Who are they? Where did they come from? What are they interested in? What's their age, gender, geography, income, all the stuff. And then optimize your whole funnel around that person, not trying to take the 99% that didn't convert and optimizing your sales funnel to convert more of those. Find the ones that did and build the whole funnel around them, not the other way around.
Yeah, guys, that is a hardcore action item. Don't base your marketing on the leads that you capture, base your marketing on the conversions that you're making, because this is the audience that's going to bring you money. This might be convoluted and it's going to filter itself out as it goes through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want to filter people out. Like that's okay. Leave the sales funnel if you're not going to buy from me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a perfect use case for pipeline, specifically in Keap, right? Because it's a visualization of where people are, and we're tracking what's working, what's not, simply by volume of how they appear on the pipeline, but also how long are they there? And we can also increase conversions by minimizing the time. Like, how do we get people to move through this, the right people to move through this faster, and so we can grow and scale? Because that's the goal at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. So we think you're amazing. I'm just going to speak for everybody. This has been so interesting. I love this, like the psychology and the focus. So how can we learn more about you?
I mean, it's pretty simple. DallasMcLaughlin.com. Again, if you think about the business, I have extremely narrow on who I am, what I do. I don't say I'm this agency. I don't say I do all these things. I'm me, a business consultant. I do paid media lead generation. I bet that QR code goes to my website. So you can scan that, or it's just DallasMcLaughlin.com, or Google me. It'll be the top ad. It'll be the top organic position also. So yeah, you can find me pretty well.
Yeah, notice how he was very succinctly able to plug that because he has a focus. He's like, I'm this guy and I do this thing and I do it really well and I'm the top one. I mean, that's kind of what we all want out of this presentation, right? Like, we want that. We want what you have.
Yeah, you'll feel that on the website. Again, it goes all the way through. It's one thing to verbalize it, but like the people I don't get to talk to, they need to also understand that. So it goes all the way through the whole business.
Perfect. And if I may make a plug here, guys, he got on our radar because we all love his podcast. So go ahead and like poke around his website and follow him on his podcast. It's pretty cool. Okay. All right. I just had to say
Unconsidered podcast.
Yeah.
Unconsidered. It's available everywhere podcasts are.
I love that so much. All right. So speaking of Keap, because I know I dropped a lot of like random terms here, and there's probably some people watching that aren't Keap users or not Keap users yet. So I want to make sure that we're all like on the same page of the kinds of things we're talking about. We're using terms like CRM, pipeline, tags, reporting. So I'm actually going to take a minute and click around a couple of features. Don't worry, friends. I'm not going to go too crazy with I'm not going to click around and build automation live. It's more about like, hey, let's look at what's available so we can accomplish what Dallas is recommending, because there's so many great tips that he gave us today. How can we use Keap to accomplish those things? So first of all, as he said, it's a numbers game. And what I really, really love about Keap in general is when you first log in, you have a beautiful dashboard. This is a numbers game. And then we're not just looking at how many leads we have. We can filter our views on our reporting and our dashboard of our kind of our first glance, right? Of how many new leads in the last 30 days. And it will show if it's increasing or decreasing. And so that will actually inform your marketing efforts, what's not happening in Keap, and that will bring more of the right people into Keap. Once your contacts are in, we can start segmenting. So it's really important to know not just that the leads are coming in and some people are converting, but which people are converting. So we can use things like tags and custom fields to make sure that, this kind of person converted versus this kind of person converted. And that is all going to go back into that cycle that he was talking about, where we're making sure that we're targeting the right people and we're focusing in on what works. In the sales portion, I did mention a few comments about a sales pipeline. So what's really neat about Keap is that it has a visual left to right Kanban style of, okay, someone's in and I'm working this lead. This is really great for those of you who have hands-on sales processes. Maybe you really have a white glove approach. You do some outreach, you schedule qualifying calls, maybe you have quotes going out, and you want to make sure that you're really humanizing your sales process. So Keap has tools for that. Don't let the word automation scare you. Automation does not mean impersonal. Automation means efficient. Cool. So in here, we can really click on our leads. And once people start moving through your pipeline, tying it all back to Dallas here, guys, we're able to track. We can see, okay, there are way too many leads stuck in the first couple stages of my pipeline. They're not moving. Now you can view in your reporting what kinds of people. You can segment it out by tags. Who's sticking around and who's moving actually down the pipeline. That's going to be so helpful to inform your marketing team to target the right kinds of people that are actually going to move down your pipeline. And of course, really cool numbers like how long they're staying in each stage. We want to be really efficient with our sales and marketing as well. And of course, once people start converting, Keap has lots of tools available to make the actual transaction process as seamless as possible. We can give people checkout forms, we can send quotes for approval, and of course, the bread and butter of it all is the automation. We can do easy or advanced automations. When someone pays, then we fire off this automation. When this type of person books a call, see, we're segmenting and focusing, right, friends? When this kind of person schedules a call, then we'll put them into this welcome automation. But if that person, this type of person with this segmentation schedules a call, then we'll add them to our sales pipeline because they're a premium lead and we're going to make sure that we're doing that hands-on process. So guys, this is just a little bit of a snippet of the power of what you can do to focus your time, because we're talking about focusing on consumers, right? But there's also, we need to focus on your time and your efficiencies. This is where Keap can help you, pun intended, level up. So we can actually take what you're doing and the automation and the efficiencies in here allow you to spend more time actually working on your business, not in your business, because Keap does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. And so you'll be able to just pull up reports, pull up your invoices, pull up your pipeline and say what's working and what's not. Let's go back to the drawing board and grow and scale and really pick things up. Speaking of reporting, there is an entire section that's actually dedicated. Sorry, guys, this is my sample account. So I have 0 sales in the last 30 days. How disappointing. But there's an entire reporting suite. And this is the exact kind of information that you can sit down with your marketing team or your Google Ads person or your content creators, or maybe it's just you. Maybe you wear all those hats, which is perfectly fine. The important thing is that you have data to inform your people, and you can do what you do best because you have a lot of this technology available to you to do the heavy lifting, and you can just look at the numbers, make more informed decisions, and focus on the right people. It's going to make everybody's lives easier, and you can grow and scale, and the numbers are there the whole time. Cycles, guys. This is all about life cycle automation. This is an amazing tool, and it's because we get to hang out with people like Dallas and the Keap team that we get to learn about the actual business strategy behind it all. Keap makes it all easier, and I think we have a little bit of a discount. So if anyone is watching this, and if anyone is watching this and you haven't tried Keap yet, oh, let's move my face so they can scan. There we go. I mean, you can scan my face too if you want. I don't think it's going to take you anywhere. But if you haven't tried Keap yet, go ahead and scan it. We'll get you a discount if you try it soon. And I got to say, speaking of like focused, it's a family too. Like we talked a lot about the psychology and the emotion of it. Keap users support Keap users. It's a family in here. So go ahead and give it a try. You can always reach out to myself. I'm in the Keap family. There's a lot of great people here to support you and make sure you succeed. That's why we have programs like this. So thank you guys so much. Try Keap if you haven't yet. We want to see you guys grow, scale, check out those numbers, focus your business. Dallas, thank you. That was so fun. Okay, yeah. I want you to come back up and say goodbye to everybody.
I'm still here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for coming today. This has been one of the most incredible conversations, and it's all kind of like abstract. It's like psychological and numbers at the same time. That's
what I love.
Yeah. So we have a little bit of time left for Q&A if anyone wants to drop some questions. But there was one that someone mentioned earlier. Let me find that. I thought it was really cool. Oh, he was talking about perhaps, is it possible to do a hybrid result where you can still offer a lot of things, but once you sense someone's interest, you kind of maybe refocus and retarget your marketing so that you're only showing them the thing that makes them go, wow. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question and a good point. So the way that I try to think about that, like I'll use my business as an example. So I told you succinctly what I do is I do business consulting and digital marketing. Mm-hmm. So typically I focus on lead generation, and people come to me because they need help generating leads. And then I'll say, okay, well, let's talk about that because there's a lot of different ways to generate leads. So then you start kind of pulling some of those different services up to the surface. But at the end of the day, what I do still falls under the same umbrella. I wouldn't all of a sudden tell you like, hey, I have a coffee shop. You want to come to my coffee shop? Because I don't do coffee. I do lead generation, and here's the components of lead generation. So you can offer multiple services and multiple things. But again, I think they need to live within the same universe of the problem they're solving.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I feel like a brand can step up to the plate and say, I'm an expert. I have thought leadership in this thing. And there may be like a variety of products related to that. But it's more about, I think what you're saying is it's more about like planting your flag and saying, we're experts at this thing, and then maybe let them shop. So it's almost like the reverse of what Kurt was suggesting. It's not market everything and then specialize. It's specialize and then let them browse once they know you're amazing from like maybe a more focused like menu, I guess you could say.
Yeah. There's like the strategy of what you do, and there's the individual tactics of how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that strategy, I think, in my opinion, has to be very cohesive.
Mm-hmm. And I have one question for you while we're here. I've been kind of in my back of my head tingling a little bit while you're talking the whole time. How does this approach vary between lower ticket and higher ticket items?
Well, the thing I struggle with lower ticket items is you need to really know how to go out and acquire a lot of customers in a high volume to drive the kind of revenue that we all probably want to see. You're going to need to either be very good at one very cheap thing and find a lot of people that do that. That typically, like I said, is like you probably got to be cheap to drive high volume. Versus if you're the best at what you do, price isn't really a conversation. It's more about the results. So it comes down to the messaging, in my opinion. If you're trying to be the best at what you do, you never talk about how cheap and inexpensive you are. My website does mention something about that, but typically what you want to do is talk about, here's the problem I'm going to solve, and you're going to pay me to solve that problem. And I'm going to keep solving that problem in perpetuity as long as you keep paying me. Versus it's very transactional when you're fast and cheap and trying to serve 100,000 customers a month.
Okay. And then we have another really good question coming in. So for people who have maybe a surplus, in your opinion, of products, do you think, how can A/B testing be used to determine the most effective way to limit choices for a particular product or service?
So I do this a lot with e-commerce companies, like on the clothing side, for example. I've got a couple different clothing clients. So we'll split test paid ad traffic where, depending on where they come from, one of the tests, they're going to be the website navigation is going to be missing a whole bunch of categories. It's going to be simply just like t-shirts, pants, women's shirts, things like that. And then another selection of traffic that comes off those paid ads will see the whole deal, like men's t-shirts, men's long sleeves, men's outerwear, the whole thing. And then what we look at is based on where they land, what they land on, what is their landing to product view rate? What is their product view to add to cart rate? And obviously, what's their add to cart to checkout rate? And we do typically find in a lot of cases, and it does depend on the creative and the audience, we do typically find, again, when you have less things up in your website navigation, less things to choose from, they're more likely to find something that they like and get that thing in their cart and get checked out. So you can give like personalized landing pages experiences to figure out which products, are really the drivers of what people are looking for.
That was incredible, because when I hear the word A/B testing, my brain just goes right to like a singular action, like A/B testing an email, A/B testing a landing page so that we can see which one's converting more. But what you're talking about is A/B testing an entire funnel top to bottom, targeting, as you mentioned earlier, the giant table of products and seeing the conversion rates, and the limited options table products and tracking the conversions. And it sounds like the conversion rate on the limited products often, almost always, right, like outperforms the larger selection. That's really cool.
Yeah. You can definitely A/B test a single variant, like you're saying, like a subject line, or you can do multivariant testing, which is testing a whole bunch of things and just see what gets more people through that funnel faster, paying more money.
Yeah. So imagine if you did A/B testing and funnel like that, and you found out that the limited option did convert higher. Imagine if you put all of your focus, as you said, but by focus, I mean like money, time, copy, resources, sales teams, conversations, the entire thing around the ones that convert higher. I think that's really what's going to spark your growth and the ability to scale and really plant your flag and be like, we are the people that do this thing. And we charge a lot because we do provide a lot of value.
Yeah, it can definitely have kind of this halo effect on a lot of operational expenses.
Yeah.
So in that example of like a clothing company, if they figure out that they're producing all of these products seasonally, because everybody's got like the spring drop, fall drop, winter drop, all that stuff. They start figuring out like, hey, maybe this winter we don't need to produce beanies at all because nobody cares. Apparently, like, you'll sell a few. But when you match that up with how much time it costs to design, to create, to store, to package, to ship all those things, it all of a sudden starts to look like, well, maybe that's not worth it. And you start by marketing, saving operational expenses way before it ever reaches marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys, the numbers that we're discussing like are so much deeper than I think the average business owner thinks about. He's not talking about the revenue you make. He's talking about the revenue you make after your time spent, after fulfillment, after sales, after marketing, after tracking, after all the things. There's just so many layers to it. So definitely follow him because there's a lot more really great information on this. I feel like this is getting so deep that it definitely hits a layer of expertise. And for those of us, small business owners, marketing managers watching this kind of show, like we're looking for this kind of information because we're busy. We want to be efficient. We want to be focused. So I hope everyone got some really awesome action items today. Guys, okay, I think that's the end of the questions. We hit them all. This was really good. So as we mentioned, this is being recorded. Please check your email and look for level up invitations because we're going to touch a different part of the life cycle automation, the entire cycle. We're going to talk about a different one every time with a different expert. So thank you so much, Dallas. This has been an incredible conversation. I learned a lot. I think everyone watching learned a lot, and I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Jade. It was fun. Thanks to everybody that came and watched. It was cool.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.